Welcome to a training on making words stick, teaching high-frequency words. I'm Jodine Smith, and I'll be your trainer for today. Let's start off with some definitions. You will often see the terms high-frequency words and sight words used interchangeably, but they are different. High-frequency words are words that occur very often, or with high frequency, in print. Sight words are words that readers can read quickly and effortlessly. In other words, instantly, without even thinking about it. Look at the image on the next slide, but do not read the word. Just look at the image. Did you read it? Of course you did, because you recognized the word saw by sight. Let's try a few more. This time, do not read the words, but name the colors you see. So for example, you will look at the color of the font and name the color. In this case, purple. Okay, are you ready? How'd it go? Was it a little slower than you anticipated? It was slower because your brain could not help but read the word, and it contradicted the color you were trying to name. Okay, on the next few slides, you can read the word. Are you ready? How was that? It was probably much faster. This phenomenon is called the Stroop effect, and although the test had previously been conducted by other scientists, it is most closely associated with John Stroop in 1935. Stroop's test and many others that came after it proved that our brains process words faster than we can name colors. It has been shown that we can read the words twice as fast as we can name the colors. Okay, look at the image on the next slide, but don't read the word. Did you read it? You couldn't help but read that word too. You probably also noticed that this is not on a high-frequency word list. Likely you didn't decode the word either, sound by sound. B, t, I. But you recognize the word because you have encountered it so many times. You may not remember it, but at some point you did relate the B to B, the U to and so on for the rest of the sounds. Eventually you didn't need to do this anymore, and you recognized the word by sight. This is called orthographic mapping, and we will come back to that concept a little later in this training. Let's look at one more slide. This time you can read the word. How'd it go with this word? Probably much slower, because it is a word I made up. You likely didn't recognize this made-up word as quickly as you did the words saw or butterfly. Because you have never seen this word before, your ability to read it was slower. And you likely segmented the words into parts that you did recognize. Con, dim, you, lus, li. Did you know that adults that are literate recognize between 30,000 and 70,000 words by sight? This allows us to read approximately 300 words per minute, which is much faster than we can comprehend speech. Think about the difference between when you read a book aloud and when you read it silently. Which is faster? We want students to be able to instantly recognize words when they are reading too. Although we want students to move many words to become sight words, high-frequency words are especially important due to how often they occur in print. And recognizing words quickly builds reading fluency, which improves comprehension. Let's talk about the two most common high-frequency word lists. The Dolch word list refers to a list of words compiled by Edward Dolch. This list contains 220 words with high utility in books for students of kindergarten through second grade. He called these words service words. Dolch initially published his list in alphabetical order. However, now the list is easily found broken down by grade level from pre-primer through third grade. The list of 220 words purposely excluded nouns unless a word had a multiple meaning and could be used as another part of speech, as well as a noun. Dolch did not include nouns because he realized that the nouns common in a particular content area would be unique to that area of study. However, he subsequently released a list of 95 of the most common nouns found in children's books. The Dolch list was compiled in 1936 and then also appeared in a book on reading problems in 1948. And although that was many decades ago, the list has generally stood the test of time, as it has been repeatedly reviewed by researchers. One difficulty with the Dolch list is that it has not been revised since it was created, and yet our language has changed. So there are a few words on the list that are deemed to be outdated, such as the word shall. And on the noun list, the words farmer, garden, and squirrel are probably not among the most common nouns students would encounter in literature. Another commonly used list was compiled by Edward Fry in 1957. It is a list of the 1,000 most frequent words used in text from 3rd through 9th grade. They are listed in order of their frequency, with the word occurring most often as word number 1. The list is broken down into smaller lists of 100 words. This list has been revised at least 6 times over the years. A comparison of the 220 Dolch words and Fry's top 100 words shows that 70 words appear on both lists, and 130 words are unique to either list. All of the Dolch words appear on Fry's top 1,000 list. Many schools and districts and reading programs compile their own list of words they want students to master at each grade level. However, they generally include words from Dolch or Fry's lists. So why are these words so important? High-frequency words live up to their name. They occur in high frequency, and they occur very often in print. Look at these statistics about what percentages these words occur in written material. The 3 most frequent words make up about 10% of written material. The 25 most frequent words make up about 1/3 of written material. And the 300 most frequent words make up about 65% of written materials. These high-frequency words make up a substantial portion of what we read. And importantly, they are often the glue that hold ideas together in sentences. The other thing to note about reading is that once a reader recognizes a sight word, the meaning is simultaneously accessed as well. Remember the word butterfly you recognized by sight earlier in the training? When you read the word butterfly, you also quickly conjure up the meaning and maybe even a picture of a butterfly in your head. Attaching meaning to a word such as butterfly works great. However, it can be problematic for some high-frequency words because many of them are difficult to attach meaning to, such as the words is, what, and of. These are words that are used to connect other words together in a sentence, such as nouns and verbs. The way we store words in our sight word memories is described as orthographic mapping. Words that can be identified effortlessly are words that have been sufficiently mapped. So here's the thing about this training. Although you may want students to learn high-frequency words because they occur so often in print, the way that high-frequency words and other words students encountered are remembered is the same: orthographic mapping. David Kilpatrick identifies 3 skills students must have in order to sufficiently map words. 1. they must have automatic letter-sound associations. In order for any word to be read, students must be able to associate the letters they see with the corresponding sounds. So when a student sees the letter S, she must know S is the corresponding sound. Note that some letters have more than one corresponding sound, such as the letter C, which can have the K or S sound. Second, students must have highly proficient phoneme awareness. Phonemic awareness is the ability to manipulate sounds in a language. There are many phonemic awareness skills, but segmenting and blending are the two skills that must be especially strong. So when a student sees the letters A and D, he must associate A, N, D, and blend the sounds together to make the word and. The final component is word study. Kilpatrick says, the word study aspect of mapping is the superglue that anchors words into permanent memory. Now here is an interesting thing about orthographic mapping, and something you have probably encountered in your own experience. For many kids, they only need between 1 to 4 encounters with a word for them to orthographically map the word. But there are a few kids who need many, many, many more encounters with a word. So let's look at ways we can help students with orthographic mapping. Here is a routine that you can use. First, you will want to identify a word you want students to learn, such as the word with. Display the word in some way, such as on a flashcard, or write it on the board. Next, say the word and have students say the word too. Now use the word in a sentence. I went to the store with my mother. This helps give the word some context and meaning, especially for those words that it is more difficult for students to define. Next, you will segment the word into individual phonemes. Say each phoneme or sound in the word one sound at a time. Add a kinesthetic way for students to segment the word by showing a finger each time you say a sound. Alternatively, you can use your arm. Start by saying the first sound as you tap your shoulder, then the second sound as you tap your elbow, and finally the third sound as you tap your wrist. I like to run the hand I use for tapping down the arm I tapped on when I am done as I say the whole word again. If a word has more than 3 sounds, you will need to segment your arm further or use your whole body: head, shoulders, waist, knees, and feet. Segmenting the word in this way not only divides the word into phonemes, but also identifies how many phonemes there are. Remember that number. You're going to need to use it next. In this case, the number of phonemes is 3. Now represent the number of phonemes visually. Here are some different ways you can choose from to visually represent sounds. You can draw a line for each sound, a dot for each sound, or a box for each sound. Notice the spaces between the lines, dots, and boxes in order to visually separate each sound. Indicate each sound as you draw the representation. Segment the word again, this time writing the letter or letters that correspond to each sound. W, W, I, TH. Now have students repeat whichever method you use to segment the word by showing fingers or tapping down their arms as they spell the word. I like to segment the word one more time as I point to the letters now that they are all represented in print. After saying each sound, run your finger under the letters to blend the sounds together to read the word. Now it is time for students to practice with the letters of the word. Here are a couple of fun ways that they can practice. Students can use their fingers to pretend to write the word on their desks They can also do this in the air or on the palm of the opposite hand. Another fun way to write the words with our index fingers is on the back of a friend. Finally, have students encode the word by writing it. This could be on a piece of paper or a whiteboard. This process of explicitly making connections between the phonemes in a word and the graphemes to spell the word help move the word into long-term memory. Here are all of the steps on one slide. It may look like a lot, but remember most of the steps only take a few seconds. Also, you can see that the steps are logical in terms of introducing the words and then pointing out and practicing the sound-symbol correspondence. Once you get into a routine, it will become much more natural. And speaking of sound-symbol correspondence, think about how explicit the sound-symbol correspondence is being made to students and how throughout the process they are continually being shown the sound-symbol correspondence and practicing it. Let me show you the whole process again without interruption. This is the word when. Say it with me. When. When is it time for lunch? When. W-H, E, N. When. Now practice writing the word in the air. W-H, E, N. When. Okay, now let's write it. W-H, E, N. When. Once you get the hang of the routine, it goes very quickly. And remember, you will not be introducing a ton of words at a time. Consider choosing between 1 and 3 words to introduce that are new for students. The routine just shown works very well for words that are spelled regularly and if the student already knows the spelling pattern. But we all know there are high-frequency words that have patterns students do not yet know, or that simply do not follow a spelling rule, or at least not a common one. So here are a few hints for presenting high-frequency words in those situations. Even if you haven't taught the pattern yet, many sight words do follow a reliable rule. 90% of the Dolch words follow a reliable pattern, and that is good news. But if your students don't yet know the pattern, just name it for them. For example, in the word soon, students may not yet know the pattern for the oo sound. So simply just say the letters OO can make the oo sound, like in the word soon. Or in the word have, simply tell students that in English words cannot end with V, so we add an E to the end of that word. For some students, this will be enough, and it is great pre-teaching for when you do teach that spelling pattern. Dr. Deborah Glasser suggests grouping regularly spelled high-frequency words by spelling pattern. You can then teach the association of the words based on the spelling pattern. For example, the vowel is long in an open syllable, so the Y spelling represents the long I sound in the words my, by, try, and why. For words that are irregularly spelled, another strategy is to point out sounds that are dependable in the word. You can even have students help you identify the dependable sounds. For example, in the word said, the S and D make a dependable sound. Once those dependable sounds are identified, identify the letter or letters in the word that do not follow a known spelling pattern. Point them out so kids are aware of them. The research suggests that most children need to encounter a word between 1 and 4 times in order for orthographic mapping to occur. But some children will need more encounters and different types of encounters with words in order for the words to become sight words. And some words, especially irregularly spelled words, may need many more encounters too. Here are some suggestions for ways students can encounter words. It is suggested that between 3 and 5 words be introduced to students at a time. The words can be written on flashcards. Students can practice their flashcards with a teacher or a friend. Have students put flashcards they can read quickly in one pile and flashcards they get stuck on in another pile. Help students with the flashcards for the words they cannot read. Then keep flipping through the flashcards until all the words can be read. Another way to use flashcards is to present students with about 3 new words written on the flashcards. Punch holes in the corner of the flashcards and place them in binder rings for easy storage. Have students read the words on the flashcards each day. Each time a student reads the words correctly, place a star or a heart on the card. Once the student has 3 hearts or stars on the flashcard, a new flashcard with a new word can be introduced. Students should encounter the high-frequency word in a text. One type of text can be a sentence frame, such as the one shown on the slide. Create a sentence frame using a high-frequency word that you have explicitly taught. In this example, the target word is with. Allow students to complete the sentence frame and record their sentences on a sheet of chart paper. You could even write the target high-frequency word in another color. Practice reading the sentences and keep the chart displayed so that students can practice reading the sentences too. Notice that this is not a way to expose students to the word with and hope that they remember the word. In this example, the word should have been explicitly pre-taught, and this is a way to follow up that teaching so that students will encounter the word again in text. Encourage students to find words that they have been practicing in books that you are reading or they are reading. For example, if a student has been working on the word across, have him find it in a text that he is reading. Identify texts that can be used to practice introduced high-frequency words. In the example above, the book No David was chosen for the high-frequency word no. I know of a teacher who used to create a class sight word book that students could practice reading by copying pages from the trade book in which she had identified high-frequency words. She assembled them all in one place, and the kids loved to read it because it reinforced words they already knew. And finally, here is where you can get really creative and add an extra dose of fun. Create multisensory experiences for students in which they practice their high-frequency words. A quick internet search and you will find tons of ways students can practice, with hair gel, shaving cream, salt, and much, much more. So if students need more exposures to a word, provide them with a variety of ways that they can experience the word. Well, we've come to the end of our training, and although we have spent the last 20 minutes talking about high-frequency words specifically, it is the same process for students to map other types of words too. Students' brains can more easily map words if the sound-symbol connections are explicitly made. Hopefully, this training has affirmed good things that you already do, as well as given you information about how to put together an effective high-frequency word program so that students can make great reading progress.